as they doggedly cast their veto in the UN Security Council against freedom in Syria, they say openly, no precedent. We do not want a precedent that will in a few months be used by the Russian nonviolent revolution, drawing the world's sympathy and support to force the dictatorial duo to go home, or God forbid, be tried. They look at Mubarak and see themselves and their corrupt families chased away from the Kremlin and the Forbidden City, their assets confiscated, and their crimes examined in open court. So, how do we stay the course of nonviolence? My conclusions in a little book that I've just completed on the 2011 Middle East Nonviolent Revolution is that A, the success of nonviolence is key to enhancing the chances of democracy in the revolution and after the revolution. That B, the constitutional moment will take place against the risk of chaos, and the more thought is given, the more joint work invested by the revolutionaries on constitutional and economic plans for the day after the freedom in Beijing and Moscow, the better chance for success. And C, that the clearer the call for justice against the dictators, the better and quicker the chances for success. Nonviolent revolution in the Middle East is a critical revolution in both senses of the word criticism. Critical because it decides the future of the world. For success in Manama and Bahrain and Damascus is increasingly enmeshed with forcing the dictators of Beijing and Moscow to retreat on the international scene, and more importantly, be forced to retreat by their own people on the domestic scene. Nothing has been more important to the revolutionaries of Syria in the last few months than the revolutionaries of Russia demonstrating against Putin. Critical also in the stronger sense of Immanuel Kant's. We, ladies and gentlemen, together are reinventing the world. We are reinventing the world, and the more critical we are in our thinking and discussions, the better our world will be when dictators come down tumbling towards their trial in open court. Let me end on a difficult moral bind which illustrates the importance of continued intense criticism in Kantian fashion. At a recent conference at Yale Law School, I took exception to the glorification of Mohammed Bouazizi, the brave Tunisian street vendor whose self-immolation sparked the Middle East violent revolution. Who can fail to admire the ultimate sacrifice of the man, and who can fail to admire the dozens of Tibetan monks who have set themselves to horrible death in recent months to underlie their despise of the Chinese dictators? And yet, I would like to put forward this issue as a critical problem for our common reflection. Yes, we honor our martyrs in the nonviolent revolution, and people will die. But we cannot honor martyrdom as part of our nonviolent revolution. A nonviolent revolution is a revolution that seeks life and honors life. Viva la muerte is a fascist call which the great Spanish philosopher Miguel de Unamuno, then rector of the University of Salamanca, denounced forcefully in the teeth of the fascist general who was sullying the university with this necrophile call at the height of Franco's fascist coup in 1936. Viva la muerte, long live death, is not part of our nonviolent revolution. Nonviolence cannot glorify death as means to life, whether inflicted on the dictator's goons or whether it is self-inflicted. I end on this very personal call, a call which I'm offering in friendship. We don't want more Bouazizis self-immolating in the Middle East. We want more Bouazizis in the streets, not committing suicide, but saying instead, long live life, viva la vida. Making a stand once and again and again. No more Bouazizi self-immolating, no more brave Tibetan monks self-immolating. And I say to my brave friend Abdul Hadi Khawaja, for whom we also took a stand with Dr. Young last week. As you know, he is on the verge of death, having carried out a hunger strike against the Bahraini authorities that have been putting him in jail just because he said what he thought. No hunger strike to the death is my message today with you to Abdul Hadi Khawaja. This is not the way of our nonviolent revolution. We don't need it. The dictators are trembling from Damascus to Moscow and from Manama to Beijing. Our nonviolent revolution is the more important for its call to life without suffering because we say what we think, including and especially when we, the people, call for the dictatorship to end and for dictators to face trial. We are not afraid. Time and again, we return to the streets to face their tanks and their goons, and they are trembling before our resolve from Manama and Damascus to Beijing and Moscow. The historic world revolution, which erupted in 2011 in Tahrir Square, is the same world historic revolution started in 1989 in Tiananmen. And together, we are bringing those two strands, success in nonviolence from Syria and Bahrain to Beijing and Moscow. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chibli, for this wonderful speech. This is a truly informative, inspirational, and visionary. Chibli will stay for question and answers. He has to leave here in 20 minutes to the airport. Professor Shah.
Yeah.
Do you want to answer?
Yeah, maybe just say.
Is there any formal or informal organizations for violence revolution in the Middle East? How can we make it happen in China without organization? Because in China nowadays, it's so hard to set up any organizations. It'll be suppressed by the government severely. So we just will try to find a solution to that. Thank you.
I don't think you can succeed in any revolution without organization. So organization is so multifaceted now that a lot of it is happening even if the ultimate dimension of the success of the revolution is to have a large number of people in the street saying down with the regime. The Arab countries and China have been very good at preventing it. And so, because they know that the moment a significant number of people is down in the street, particularly in the center of the system, that is in Damascus, in Cairo, in Beijing, then suddenly the end is near. So they have been extremely attentive at preventing this from happening. Now, how can you defeat this? There is no magic wand. There is one moment when the spark comes out. You can prepare for revolution, I believe. You cannot command it. If the definition of a non-violent revolution is that the massive number of people who turn into the street. These people you can inspire, you can help, you can organize as we are today to carry a different message. But the day when they go down in the street, you cannot plan. So my suggestion is not to worry about this. Let's organize well across the planet. Let's defeat the dictators, make them scared everywhere, and say it's our same struggle. And then organizationally, we will accompany it. So I think that what we did, why we are so privileged in Right to Nonviolence in Beirut, of having Dr. Young on our board, is to say this is something which is far bigger than you think, you little dictators, and you're nothing. This rainbow route is organizing to get you out and telling you that you're getting you out. So once you're tight enough, once your message goes out, and you know how difficult it is, it has to be the press, it has to be personal contact, it has to be accurate information from within, it has to be protecting people from ending up in prison. Because these are the people who are going to lead the street when the time comes. And you want them to be free, not to be in prison. I think it happens, it will happen, and it will happen far more quickly than one thing. But of course we have to organize.
Thank you, Giovanni. Sir, Weshi.
I think each country has different very special situation, and I'm thinking, do you think in certain situation, a specific country, non-violence cannot be successful ever? Finally, we'll be in the stage violence. I make example in sometimes collapse of a government, not only civil war like the attack, also the foreign force came in. It seems many models. So yeah, I'm not really.
I think you're asking a very important philosophical historical question to which the revolutions are giving answers and we're following. It's a bit like the Earl of Minerva in Hegel's philosophy. When things happen, we have to restart organizing our thoughts to make sense of what's happening. It's extraordinary. One of the poorest countries of the world is Yemen. And for a year now, it's been a non-violent revolution. And the man at the head, who has been pushed out, despite the support of the Saudis, of course, who don't like any sort of revolution, so your foreign forces, there is a moment when even foreign forces cannot do anything against a non-violent movement. You will see it in Bahrain. Bahrain has been non-violent until now, despite the Saudi invasion. And I think they're going to win. So you have to be very careful about expressing the limits of non-violence. It surprises you. What I've learned from 2011 is that there may be no limits to non-violence, however strong the repression. And it is when you have a movement, a revolutionary movement, which, as you know, in law is entitled to take up arms against the tyrant. When that revolutionary movement takes up arms against the tyrant, it becomes immediately much weaker. Practically, what happens is that you don't have any longer families in the street. It's going to be only young men with a little Kalashnikov or whatever thing that they can get, shooting at whoever they perceive as a government soldier. It's not the right thing to do. It was a big mistake, I think, in Libya. And that, in Egypt, the revolution cost 800 people died in the course of the revolution to get Mubarak down over a period of a month. In Libya, Gaddafi down, bringing Gaddafi down, in addition to NATO and all of this, cost over 30,000 Libyan losses. So it is difficult, right? And it's not a new problem. I mean, Gandhi had to face it with the Nazis. When there is a group that is so brutal that it will not hesitate to shoot at anything that moves, it's very difficult to continue advocating non-violence. But I would say this is the better course. At one point, if you continue on this, it breaks. And I think also this is the message of the Dalai Lama. It will break in Tibet, it will break in Beijing. Taking up arms, even against very brutal repression, is not the most efficient. I'm talking about efficiency. I think a non-violent movement is more efficient. Now again, as I told you, my sense is that what Bouazizi, the icon of the Arab Spring, when he set himself on fire and sparked the revolution, when these extraordinary monks in Saffron put their lives out in despair to death, I don't think this is the right way. The right way is a call for life, and life through non-violence. And so, to my sense, if we keep that message, and the message is very simple: who is anybody in the world, government or not government, entitled to tell me not to say what I think.